guys, RanterInShades here, exercising my first amendment rights vlog style. Happy New Year to you all. It's now that lovely time of the year where I shamelessly rip off a bunch of music reviewers and go over my top 10 best hit songs of 2017. 2017... I don't know what to say about it. It started out great, then took a complete shit on itself, and I'd rather not explain why. Thankfully, things appear to be looking better, so let's keep the positivity rolling and talk about some music I liked this year. My favorite albums this year include, but are not limited to, Shakeout's Part 1, Rob Scallon's The Scene Is Dead, Trivium's The Sin in the Sentence, Havoc's Conformicide, Steel Panther's Lower the Bar, As Lions' Selfish Age, Neck Deep's The Peace and the Panic, Naebla Viscaris' Urn, Rise Against's Wolves, The Contortionist's Clairvoyant, Knucklepuck's Shapeshifter, Angel Vivaldi's Synapse, Persephone's Athma, Restroposa's Self-Titled, Silverstein's Dead Reflection, I the Mighty's Where the Mind Wants to Go, Where You Let It Go, Foo Fighters' Concrete and Gold, praise Jesus, A Lucid Interval's The Breath of Life, Nothing More's The Stories We Tell Ourselves, and my favorite, Chon's Homie. Not a bad year for albums, I'd say. Now for the main event. The rules for this list are the song must be charted on the Billboard year-end chart that I'll have linked in the description for you to observe, and I must find it to be tolerable or even really enjoyable. Seems simple. And while I'm sure there may or may not be a song or two that you might not like, at least allow me to say what I think before you leave comments telling me how dumb I am for including them. Cool? Cool. Let's go. Number 10. I get that Imagine Dragons isn't everyone's favorite radio act, let alone their favorite rock band on the radio. I don't think they're great, but I don't think they're terrible either. Like I've been saying about a bunch of artists in this series, there's so little rock music on hit radio that I can really take what I can get and find some enjoyment in them. And after a couple of years of thinking Imagine Dragons' success in 2013-2014 was a fluke because no one was talking about them, they're back with Thunder. Yeah, wrong song. The song might not exactly rock, per se, but musically it sounds really uplifting, particularly in the chorus. It kind of reminds me of the music from The Lion King, with how African it sort of sounds, with the big drums that kind of sound like stock punch sound effects, and I'm sorry if that sounded racist at all, that's not my intention there. Lyrically, the song is also pretty uplifting. It's one of those songs about being a dreamer, and getting ready to explode with energy, like the sound of thunder. Of course, as an aspiring musician, I can definitely relate. I can even sort of relate to when Dan Reynolds says in the second verse,
"Kids were laughing in my classes while I was scheming for the masses. Who do you think you are? Dreaming about being a big star."
We all have those people in our lives that tell you you're living in a fantasy world and that you need to get a real job. But you know what? Fuck 'em. Dan goes on to talk about smiling from the stage, like, look at me now, bitch. Here's to hoping we can all be saying that in 2018. Number 9. Kendrick Lamar's Damn was an album that got people to all say, well, damn. If I had to pick a favorite rap album from this year, out of the minuscule number of current rappers I pay attention to, Damn would definitely be it. It's no To Pimp a Butterfly in my book, but still something worth checking out. The beat here's pretty cool and the flow's on point. It's particularly impressive in the second verse. He spends most of the first verse talking about all his cool traits in his DNA. It's a bragging song that doesn't mention money or how many bitches and hoes he fucks, but rather talks about shit he dealt with in his upbringing. For mainstream rap, it's quite substantial, though I could really do without the biblical references. The second verse focuses on where he is now and the kind of life he's living, and he also spent some lines taking some shots at his competition in kind of a vivid way. DNA is a cool song, and I'm glad Kendrick is getting some love on this year-end chart. Number 8. This song is damn smooth. It's got a pretty relaxing texture and a cool bass line to go with it. The progression is pretty lush, and Weeknd's vocals don't sound as forward as you might expect in an R&B song from this decade. Thus, he continues to remind me of a throwback artist, but yet doesn't sound like the kind that's stuck in the 80s. The song also features Daft Punk doing their iconic robot voices. They're utilized nicely and don't sound out of place at all. They do some cool harmonies in the second chorus, and in the final chorus, they do a call and response type game with Weeknd, and it sounds quite impressive. As sexual as the first verse implies the song is, I look at I Feel It Comin' as being about trying to establish or reconcile a relationship that, from the sound of it, sounds pretty special. What does he feel coming? Aside from an extension going on in his pants, I'm sure, he's sensing an emotional climax to correspond to the relationship's blossoming. Sounds pretty awesome, huh? Number 7. I was originally exposed to Believer through Leo Maracchioli of Frog Leap Studios' metal cover. I thought it sounded cool, though I didn't have any idea at the time that this was a new song, so I said to myself, I wonder if the original sounds any good. I mean, I dug some of their stuff in the past, so this one's gotta be worth checking out. The progression is dramatic and definitely interesting, and the slow pacing of the music definitely complements the dramatic tone. Although I do wish the chorus sounded bigger and the vocal harmonies didn't sound nasally, I think the song sounds pretty nice overall. The lyrics almost seem to pair nicely with Thunder, as they're about coming out of a place of pain and feeling stronger. Though the chorus might imply that Dan Reynolds came out of this place through finding God, I look at it more as him becoming a believer in himself, feeling that thunder like we were talking about before. Reynolds also talks about learning how to deal with pain throughout his life and how to express his emotions, which I'm sure is quite relatable to most of us here. I'm certainly no stranger to the past having some shitty aspects, but again, we're left with some kind of message of hope and empowerment, and since I'm sure most people have been having a crappy year, it's a message I think we could really use. Number 6. Now this song from Kendrick I like a lot more than DNA. It's got a cooler sounding beat and lyrics I can better appreciate. He's speaking more in this song about his lifestyle and how much of a class act he is. It's debatable if I'd call this him being humble, but at least he doesn't come off as too braggy. I mean, he even talks about being friendly with Obama and isn't in our faces about it. Do I buy Kendrick as a class act? Sure. Like I said before, he's one of very few current rap artists that I can really say I care about, and his rise to fame and his take on various aspects of life is admirable to say the least. I'd much rather listen to what he has to say than a number of people in the pop universe. Humble is also noteworthy for the line in the second verse where he mentions not liking photoshopped women plastered in the media and wanting to see natural beauty. That's definitely something I find to be agreeable. Maybe then people won't downplay themselves constantly and have their friends go, "Girl, come on, you're fine." Apparently people think the chorus is directed at Big Sean, aka the ass douche. I guess he wasn't acting particularly humble. Wouldn't really surprise me there. But it looks like it's more of Kendrick talking down to his competition in a pretty simple way. He doesn't come off as arrogant, it's just him saying, "Come on now." Though him constantly saying "hole up" does remind me an awful lot of We Dem Boys. Remember that? Also, while I still have you here, I'd really like to know what a syrup sandwich is. Is that like making a sandwich using French toast? Don't know how I feel about that. Number 5. The song was everywhere, hence it charting at number 1 on the year-end chart. Most people I know found the song to be overplayed and corny. Me? I found it to be catchy and enjoyable. Now when I say Shape of You is catchy, it's damn catchy. I like it when pop songs sound fun, and Ed Sheeran wastes no time in that department. It reminds me a lot of something I'd expect from Justin Timberlake, and if you're gonna replicate anyone in pop, Timberlake is not a bad choice. It's very feel-good, so it almost seems like a throwback to when pop music was a lot more like that and less flashy. Sheeran is also straightforward as fuck when he boldly says, "I'm in love with your body." Although saying shit like that does make you sound like a womanizing horn dog, at least you're being honest. The verses are also pretty cute sounding, and the part about his bed sheets smelling like the girl, who doesn't love that smell? The lyrics to me are reminiscent of 80s rock, with how straightforward and to the point Sheeran is when talking about the sex. With most pop artists these days, I'd cringe at those kinds of lyrics, but I'm not finding myself cringing here. Maybe it's because it isn't coming off as flashy. Either way, it's a fun song, so good on you, sir. Number 4. I've seen the name Portugal, the man with that weird period like Panic at the Disco's exclamation point, tossed around by the indie rock fans in my friend group a few times over the years, and I never really bothered to see what they're about. When I saw Todd in the Shadows review of this, along with Thunder, I was like, damn, this is catchy as hell. It's fast-paced, there are some nice horn hits in the chorus, and overall, the song's pretty funky. You hardly ever hear pop hits that aren't by Bruno Mars sound like this, so it definitely sticks out to me. Lyrically, Feel It Still is kind of confusing. He's a rebel just for kicks, and he's been doing this since 1986, I guess. I view Feeling It Still to mean still having that general rock and roll spirit despite having gotten older. I mean, this band's been active since 2004. A lot can change in a decade, what with family becoming a thing. But I guess it's cool knowing they're still feeling good after all this time. So yeah, not a whole lot else to say. Song's catchy and I like the feel here. Number 3. And speaking of Bruno Mars, here he is. You guys know I dig his music, so him being on this list should be no surprise. I mentioned last year really liking his album 24K Magic, and while That's What I Like might not be my favorite song from the album, it's certainly awesome. It's got a nice groove to it, the music's executed greatly, and it's pretty funky. Lucky for me, that's what I like about Bruno's music. See what I did there? The chorus sounds slowed down given that it's in halftime, and it contrasts nicely from the verses, and the chords in the bridge sound damn interesting, and the vocal performance there sounds very soulful. I'm not sure what else to say, the song's fucking cool. Lyrically, the song's pretty similar to Shape of You, where Bruno's trying to show his lady a nice night out. He doesn't sound dickish or too overconfident, and he doesn't sound sappy either, like in Just the Way You Are. I like this. It shows that he's really grown from that time period, both as a writer and a singer. Nowhere to go but up from here. To Mars. That wasn't a pun, that was a Coheed and Cambria reference. Fine, it was a pun, sorry. Number 2. Oh, you knew I wasn't going to leave Adele off this list, proving even more that her success wasn't a fluke. This is one of my favorites off 25, and I'm glad Adele was still able to crack a hit this year. Stylistically, Water Under the Bridge is in the middle of the spectrum between the ballads and the more upbeat songs we've heard from her. It doesn't sound as out of the ballpark as Send My Love to Your New Lover did, but it also doesn't contribute to what some would call a formula. When that happens, artists tend to not get as great of a reaction from critics or fans, and while I'm sure there are a few aspects of Adele's music that some would call cliched, she's shown that she is capable of having some variety in her sound. Like I said in last year's Best Songs list, Adele doesn't try to hide that she's had a pretty rough love life, but in this song she expresses desire for the relationship to stay together and tries to convey to her boyfriend that the love is worth holding on to. It's definitely relatable for anyone trying to save a love on the rocks, and I like how Adele takes a different approach to a potential breakup than she does in Someone Like You and Send My Love, where she implies she still has some feelings for the guy that aren't exactly being reciprocated. It shows again how she ain't a one-trick pony. Hopefully she's able to continue riding this wave in 2018. I only have one honorable mention this year, and once again, it's by Bruno Mars. This would be Versace on the Floor. This didn't chart on the year-end chart, which is a damn shame, but then again, that'd probably mean a good bit of this list would consist of Bruno Mars songs. Versace on the Floor is probably the smoothest ballad I've heard from him. Like most smooth R&B ballads, the song's about falling in love and just allowing passion to take control. It almost feels like it takes place after That's What I Like. After all, it does come directly after that song on the album. He's being both figurative and literal when telling his girl to loosen up and allow her Versace dress to just disappear. Is he a bit forward? Yeah, but the tone of the song, in a way, kind of allows for it. Also, there's a bomb keyboard solo that leads into a key change, and I'm a man who loves solos and key changes. And my favorite hit song of 2017 is this. Would have been number 1 on my list had it made it on the year-end chart. But if we learned anything from Uptown Funk, it's that if a song comes out at the tail end of the year and charts high on the weekly Billboard chart, it's bound to have more of an impact next year. So here's to hoping I'm right once again.
Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24 karat magic in the air. Hit to toe so clear. Look out.
I know. These lists are kind of predictable for me. This is the 3rd time in the 5 years I've done these year-end countdowns that Bruno Mars has topped my best list. At this point, you guys are probably familiar with what my taste in pop music is like, so you can see a lot of my choices from a mile away, especially this one. I'm sorry, I love this song. Can you really blame me though? Knowing the kinds of pop songs I tend to like and taking into account how little radio I listen to, it's only natural that we'd be seeing Bruno Mars here again. What else can I say here that I didn't already say last year about 24K Magic? It's funky as fuck and I love listening to it. It's an extremely worthy follow-up to the monster that was Uptown Funk. If I could go on a quick tangent for just a moment, if there's one feeling I love, it's the feeling of being right. I love how on point I've been about what happens when a really cool song comes out too late in the year to make an impact, so it carries over to the next year. Bruno Mars has been pretty lucky with those moves, so I think we all owe him a nice big good on you. I was almost worried that this would have been a fluke, that people wouldn't really give this song the love it deserves and say, meh, this is just him trying to rewrite Uptown Funk, it's nothing new. Who cares? It jams! I love songs like this from Bruno. So here's to hoping he can help lead the charge to make pop music great again. Thank you for watching this video. 2017 might have been a weird year, but it certainly had its high points. Getting to meet my best online friend in person, reaching 3,000 subscribers, a cool series of concerts, and of course winning my PRS S2 standard in that giveaway for Music is Win. Can't say the year was all bad. Hope you enjoyed this list, but we're not done yet. Stay tuned for the top 10 worst songs of 2017 coming up next. I'm Shades, and I'll see you next time.